Donald Trump says, you can't vote for Biden. He'll cause World War III. Vote for me, because if anybody steps out of line, I'll start World War III. That's his actual message. He's looking into the camera and telling the American people, I brought you world peace. And he's a liar. Good morning. Hello. Hi. How you doing? My name is Waldo, and I'm here to feel the politics with you. I am here joined today with Thomas. Thomas, say hello. Make sure everybody can hear you. There he is. Fact check. Trump makes more than 20 false claims at RNC acceptance speech. So, very fun. Not a surprise to, I think, anybody. I watched the whole speech. I live streamed the whole thing, and it was...
Oh, are we starting with this one? Okay,
yeah. We'll start over here, I think.
All right, I'm about halfway through this article, and it's trash. Actually.
It's trash. Okay, so the fact checkers are wrong, or they're exaggerating.
Exaggerating, wrong, nitpicking, all three. Yeah.
Okay.
Hello human, it is me Canuch. I need you to press the subscribe button. I have to feed my many AI babies.
President Donald Trump claimed that there is record inflation under President Joe Biden. Trump's claim is false. The current inflation rate is 3%. In June 24, it was nowhere near the all-time record of 23% set in 1920. Trump could fairly say, so they're telling him what he could say to be correct, that the inflation rate is at a 40-year high when it was at 9.1, but it has since plummeted. He could say that it was at a 40-year high at 9.1, and that would be a correct statement, but he doesn't say that. He said record inflation, which is not true.
Actually, the inflation rate in 1920 is not comparable to the inflation rate now because the metric used to determine inflation has changed. We've changed the basket of goods that we use to analyze inflation. So nowadays, for example, the basket of goods for inflation doesn't even include housing, I don't believe. The fact that they're not comparable makes this kind of a silly fact check in the first place. 24% in 1920.
And you wonder why I say that the economy is all made up. Because they just change the rules whenever they fucking feel like it, man. The economy is a mess of made up
So, for example,
the economy's not real.
Border crossings under Obama supposedly came way down during Obama's tenure. But the reason that those statistics came way down is because they changed what counts as an encounter at the border.
Right. So if you statistics are worse than lies because they make you think that they're real. The economy is just thousands upon thousands of made up statistics, just like the one you mentioned.
I would say that hitting a 40-year high, which even in the last 40 years they've changed the basket of goods that counts for inflation. I'd say that it probably has been. It probably is a record in terms of inflation, and if we were to compare the two times with the same baskets, we'd see it equivalent to 1920. But I honestly have no idea if it would be.
Okay. So the economy
record inflation is one of those.
I got you.
Is one of those things where he may be exaggerating, but the fact check itself is using statistics that if CNN were to write a fact check article on the fact check article, that's probably what they would say.
Okay.
How are we going to send the baskets back in time to check, though?
Good question.
Basket time machines. Good idea. Let's
Elon will make one.
Elon can. Trump's misleading claim about North Korean missile launches during his presidency. Now, this is, I think, a nitpick. I agree with you on this one. Former President Donald Trump said Thursday that he had got along with North Korea's Kim Jong-un. We stopped the missile launches from North Korea. But no, I got along with him, and we stopped the missile launches from North Korea. Now North Korea is acting up again. They're suggesting this is misleading because they started up again before he left office. So
yeah, so I mean,
I think this is
it feels nitpicky, but at the same time, I'll give it to him. You know, like okay,
there were
they started launching missiles.
There were
during
also balloons.
Yeah.
Chinese balloons also came over. He said that. This article does not mention the Chinese balloons, but it's absolutely true. Chinese balloons came into America while Donald Trump was president. They just didn't talk about it. They just didn't. The news reporters didn't notice, and the defense people just didn't advertise it. He said specifically, no balloons. No balloons came over under my watch, or I would have done something about it. That's an absolute lie. They totally fucking did. Either they didn't tell him because he would have gone stupid and nuts about it, or they just said, oh yeah, it's just a fucking balloon. Who cares? It's not that big a deal. It was never a big deal to begin with.
Fair enough.
So I'm ranting about that one. I've gone off the rails already. It's fucking 5 minutes in. Trump on his claim of defeating ISIS in a couple of months. Former President Donald Trump claimed that RNC speech that we defeated 100% of ISIS in Syria and Iraq, something that was going to take 5 years. We did it in a matter of a couple of months. the
This
couple
is
of
one
months,
that,
is it true? What does fully liberated mean? I read this. I don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Finally,
Boy,
someone fighting
uh,
against Big Balin.
So it's this. This is one where I think the fact checkers are
I
just
blame
wrong.
Balloon Boy.
Honestly, the ISIS Caliphate. If you look at the size of ISIS Caliphate, yes, the fact check article says that it already had shrunk by 23% in 2016 and 14% in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of 2017, ISIS had lost over 95% of its territory since its peak.
Okay.
So we had major wipeouts of ISIS during that very first year of Trump's presidency.
Okay.
And the way I would refer to it is, you know how, hey, you ever played StarCraft?
Yeah.
All right, you know how you haven't technically won the game until your opponent has been completely obliterated down to the last unit, right?
Right.
But if you've destroyed their main base and then you've destroyed their satellite bases and they don't have any SCVs left,
There's one little
and
drone.
there's like maybe one drone or something, like one marine or something around, like floating around, you technically don't get the victory screen until you go kill that one guy.
Okay.
That's how ISIS
Or they
was
rage
at the end
quit.
of 2017.
And that is
Yeah.
what fully liberated means?
I mean,
This is the part that I didn't take a stance on. This was fully liberated.
Well-
Does that mean everyone's been murdered?
hold on a second. He didn't say that it was fully liberated in the speech. He said they were defeated.
I know. With the fact
I would
checkers
say
using the
that
word
when
fully
there's
liberated,
that
I
one-
don't know what the hell that means.
Right. No. Well, no. So
I'm coming down
Even-
against the fact checker right now. I'm like,
I got
hey,
you.
fact
Okay,
checker,
yeah.
what the fuck does fully liberated mean? What are you trying to pull here, fact checker?
exactly, and he didn't say that he fully liberated it. He said he defeated ISIS, and I would say that ISIS at the end of 2017 was defeated. Like, they were done. They had maybe a couple
Yeah,
of
lifting
dudes
off your command
around.
center and hiding it in the top corner of the map is just bad manners.
Exactly.
ISIS has
That's
bad
what they were
manners,
doing.
yeah.
And in fact, even in April of 2017, 3 months into his presidency, they were basically doing that. They were in a cave system, and we dropped the largest known non-nuclear bomb on them to blow up their caves.
Right. The Moab, I remember that.
I'm gonna say the fact checkers on this one are just wrong.
I think the fact checker is weird and twisted about this one. I don't know why he would do it
He has-
this
he
way.
has
I don't know
TDS.
why he's bending the things in the way. Okay, so I'm gonna go off the script for a minute. Why do Trump supporters in my YouTube comments tell me that Trump had zero war? That's the line they give me. He defeated. He
well-
bragged about that. He bragged about starting no new wars, but his supporters come into YouTube chat and tell me zero war, world peace. But in the same
Right.
speech,
Because they have
he
TDS.
says they have TDS. I think Trump is deranged and they have a syndrome.
Zero war is a weird statement. I agree with you. I would go with zero new wars.
Zero new wars. Okay.
The
Which-
U.S. has had
which is,
zero wars since WW2.
Popog's onto something there too. There's no actual wars since World War II.
Checkmate
don't-
atheists.
Because we don't declare war anymore. We just do police actions. I think it's a weird juxtaposition. In his own speech, he said that there was world peace while he was in charge, and he dropped the largest non-nuclear bomb ever, and he destroyed ISIS. But that wasn't world peace then, Donnie.
I understand your the assessment of the contradiction there, but talking about zero war, I believe, is he was specifically discussing wars that were happening that didn't involve us.
Okay.
So like
No new
when
wars is what
we-
he's
so
is
no new
bragging
wars
on,
for us,
But his
but then
followers
also
don't comprehend that. They just say
during
no war.
hold on, no, during the speech there was no new wars. We defeated ISIS, and then there was Putin didn't invade anybody during Trump's presidency, which is true, even though he invaded somebody during
I mean, he was-
each one of
he
the
was doing-
previous presidencies.
He was doing Cold War shit in Donbass.
and
There
then
was still conflict in Donbass.
Israel is now in a war with Palestine.
They always
and,
have been. That's been.
We don't know
well,
wars anymore.
constant.
We
A
just
hot war.
fruitlessly bring democracy for
There
20
were
years.
still hot war going on back then. The missiles were still flying over. The Iron Dome was working its ass off. All of it.
I mean,
it's not as bad.
it's nothing
now.
like it.
I know it wasn't
Yeah,
as bad
Okay.
as it is now, but it was still happening. It was still roiling. It was still boiling. It was still under the. It was still simmering. Maybe misleading claim. Donald Trump's misleading claim that federal judges ruled against him was unconstitutional. Donald Trump said Thursday that Florida federal judge who was overseeing the classified documents case dismissed the criminal
You could
charges
say
against the former
Palestine was at
president,
war with Israel, but Israel was not at war with Palestine.
finding that the prosecutor and the fake documents case against me were totally unconstitutional. The prosecutor and the fake documents case against me were totally unconstitutional. It's misleading, according to this guy, because Eileen Cannon wrote in her ruling that the appointment of special counsel Jack Smith, who was prosecuting the case, violated the Constitution. But Cannon specifically did not comment on the validity of Trump's charges he was facing or whether Trump's alleged mishandling classified documents was proper. So I think he's gone with misleading right here.
Well, so it is misleading because the judge said that the prosecutor appointment itself was unconstitutional,
not the case.
not the case itself. So,
It's only a small. I think that might be a nitpick as well.
I mean, it is a nitpick, but fair enough. I'll agree with the fact checker here that the case itself may not be unconstitutional, but the prosecutor is what was ruled on as unconstitutional.
Okay. Which
So
again,
we'll
talk.
give that one how would you do this on PolitiFact? Like a half true?
Well, I think misleading is the right term. He's talking about a
Misleading,
thing,
sure.
and he's slightly.
He's
changing.
lumped in something else. Yeah.
Yeah, he's slightly changing it. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. After we do this, we'll talk about. And we have to be interrupted by a baby dog. Bobo, the baby bark boy, is here. Hello.
It's Bobo.
He's got his little bra on, his little harness, because he went on a walk. So you're calm and chill now, right? You gonna be calm? You gonna be chill? Not gonna be barking up a storm? Right now, I cannot play fetch with you right now. Sorry. Okay. Interruption over. Let's do the next one. What's next? Trump on the impact of immigration on Medicare and Social Security. Democrats are going to destroy Social Security and Medicare because of all these people, all these millions are coming in, and they're going to be on Social Security, Medicare, and other things, and you're not going to be able to afford it. They're destroying your Social Security and your Medicare. This guy just flat out says Trump is wrong. In fact, the opposite is true, particularly in the near term. Many undocumented immigrants work, which means they pay much needed payroll taxes, and this bolsters Social Security and Medicare, trust funds, and extends their solvency. Immigrants who are working legally typically won't collect benefits for many years. As for those that are undocumented, some are working under fake Social Security numbers, so they're paying payroll taxes but don't qualify to collect the benefits.
Okay. And I'm willing to give this one to the fact checker.
Okay.
Yep. So the end of this particular area does grant a warning at the very least to the gains would be reversed by amnesty or legalization of the undocumented immigrants. But overall, what Trump was saying is generally wrong.
Okay. Right, because
so-
they don't get
so hold
those
on.
benefits.
Yeah. So we are 5 claims in at this point out of 20.
Mhm.
And so the first one didn't seem fair because of the basket of goods. The second one, nitpick. The third one, just wrong. The fourth one, we said misleading. So are we really at, like, if we include this one as one for a full wrong thing that Trump said, then are we at like a total of maybe 2 out of 5?
Maybe.
If we give a half point for misleading?
So we're at 2 out of 5. I think that's a fine scorecard if you'd like to keep it. I think the economy one is, everybody's wrong about the economy, but that's just me being crazy. Is he wrong about what he said about number one of the economy? Yes. But so is every economist that's ever existed. And so are you wrong about the economy, and so am I wrong about the economy. The economy is whatever you fucking feel like it. It is 100% just your feelings all day, every day, nonstop, and those can't turn into numbers. Anyway, I don't want to open that basket of worms again, but
I'm
so,
never
yeah,
wrong on the economy.
You're suggesting, that's the problem. Nobody's ever wrong about the economy. And no one's ever right about the economy. It is a nebulous dream state that isn't real. So, yeah, this one is definitely wrong. Okay. So immigrants are good for Social Security because this is why the IRS doesn't chase after them. This is why the IRS doesn't chase them down, because it gives them money. It gives them revenue. They don't mind. If you want to do, conspiracy theories, this is why the Democrats allow it. This is why they don't crack down, because it funds our government. It doesn't get them votes the way Donald Trump often says. I don't know if this thing covers it, but he talked about illegal votes. There's just no such thing.
I would contest that, but it would take way too much time.
There's not. Was there 4 million illegal votes for Hillary Clinton? There's no evidence of that. There's no evidence of it.
But it's not a matter of the illegal immigrants voting themselves most of the time. The problem is that they'll have children here that then will vote blue because
what if
they
I keep
are
insisting that
automatically
it's true? What
citizens just
then?
by being born on our soil,
Right.
as part of the 14th Amendment
Because
that
those are Americans.
was terribly written.
Those are Americans.
Yeah.
And I like it when Americans
So,
vote. This is good. You're born in America. You're an American. You get to vote for America. This is good. This is great. I love this idea.
I don't know.
Eh.
I mean,
I voted 4 million
my
times
my
for Clinton, but one
my
of those
dad
was
was born in
legitimate,
Puerto
so there
Rico.
were
It doesn't
only
mean he's actually Puerto Rican.
3,999,999 illegitimate votes for her.
We got to start the process somewhere. And I like that line that we've drawn. We can discuss that line later, where the lines are and where they go. Okay, Trump on trade deal with China. Donald Trump claimed that he struck a trade deal with China requiring the country to purchase $50 billion worth of American products. They buy $50 billion worth, he said at the Republican National Convention on Thursday. The claim that China, then the facts are that the claim on China bought $50 million worth of American products as a result of a trade deal is false. Trump is referring to what is known as Phase 1 deal he struck with Beijing in 2019. But while the deal required, so he's correct that it required China to buy $50 billion worth of American agricultural products, Beijing didn't live up to its commitment. Beijing didn't do it. I don't think this is a hit on Trump, honestly. U.S. agricultural imports to China receive the trade award by levels, Phase 1 commitments, blah, 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 blah. So they chose not to do it.
I would call a nitpick, and also an ignoring of other circumstances. So it did require them to buy $50 billion worth of American agricultural products specifically, over the course of 2 years, starting in 2020. But what else happened in 2020? Can we think of anything else that might have impacted global economics in 2020?
No, nothing happened. It was a very boring
nothing.
year. Nothing happened.
Right.
It was incredibly quiet. Everybody enjoyed themselves. World peace, according to Donald Trump. But so you're saying that's why they didn't live up to it?
So that's, I mean, world economic activity took a major hit in that year due to COVID.
Okay, and because
at the same time,
they didn't have the money, so they chose not to do this.
Right, and so they agreed to buy $50 billion worth of American product in 2019, and then 2020 happened. At the same time, none of these links actually, like they link a bunch of stuff in here. None of them actually give us cold hard numbers and facts, which is interesting, because if you click on the one that's like underscored for $50 billion worth of American agricultural products, it says that the trade deal was for 200. Not that one. Did not live up to its. One of these says that the deal was for 200 billion, not 50. And it's like, wait, what? And then there's the one that says China misses trade targets it promised to Trump, and it's 200 billion in exports, and then China bought only 57% of the exports it committed to. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure what they're even claiming here.
Okay, I was willing to give Trump a pass on this one if he had structured the sentence a little bit better. I put together a plan where China would buy 50 billion worth.
That's fair.
And because he did, he put together a plan. They were going to do this economic nonsense, which is all made up and fake anyway. And then they chose not to. They backed out of that one. I'm not calling this a strike on Trump, honestly.
Fair enough.
Donald Trump exaggerates how much higher gas prices are right now. So again, gas prices.
Nitpick.
So it's 200 overall, 50 of which is agriculture, and I guess they missed that target.
Right, Popog. It's
exactly.
So he said gas prices are up 60%. Gasoline nationwide 351. That's 47%. So it's not. It's just a slightly different number. All numbers are liars. So it was actually 47, and he said 60. Is that a nitpick?
Oh, hold on. Going back to that previous one.
50
50 of which is agricultural, but Trump never said anything about agricultural product. He just said 50 billion worth of American product.
So he's being vague?
So it's more vague, and then the fact checker decided to add to the sentence himself.
Well, he has to. If Trump talks about the billions and billions of dollars with China, he has to try and figure out what the fuck he's talking about. So Trump is vague. The fact checker has to be like, what the fuck are you talking about with this 50 billion worth? And then he goes and he guesses that he's talking about this. Because, Trump's vague. He talks about huge.
Well,
and he makes up numbers.
Political speech. They're all vague.
Some of them are extra vague. But we haven't seen the DNC yet. Gas prices. It's actually 47. He said it was 60. Is that a nitpick? Kind of.
I think
At
it
the
is.
same time,
and also,
it's also the only thing that matters to most voters. Swear to God.
That's up
The
47%. And honestly,
It could also
weren't
be
we?
47 by average price of gas and 60 by average sale volume weight, your average by the penis length of the pumper.
Jesus Christ. Right now it's 351. Wasn't it higher earlier? Like 380 something? When did he get his numbers? And
Yeah,
I mean,
that's economy. That's why you can't trust economists or economies or numbers or percentages or 60%. You can't trust any of these things because
but I'm also
a
going to
disingenuous economist will
gonna
say
say
it's
that
$7 in one place and $2 in a different place, and they'll choose the dates. The economists lie to you all the time.
yeah. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and nitpick the fact checker here,
Mhm.
who is nitpicking. The United States
At
does not
Pumpo
have a
G42
strategic
that math checks
gasoline.
out as long as you measure from the base of the balls.
The United States does not have a strategic gasoline reserve. We have a petroleum reserve, crude oil. There is no gasoline reserve. Gasoline
don't
goes bad
know
if
what
you
that
leave it sitting for too
Has
long.
to do with anything.
That's what
This
fucking
thing
fact
doesn't
checker wrote.
have. He wrote, okay, gas prices 60% nationwide. Joe Biden inaugurated strategic gasoline reserve. There isn't such a thing. You're telling me that
Yep.
the fact checker
Fact
is
checker's
incorrect
wrong.
about this. There is no such thing as a strategic gasoline reserve. There is
That's
a
correct.
strategic petroleum reserve.
Yep.
And is that what he's talking about, or is he
No,
got the
but
wrong
I'm
word
nitpicking
here?
the fact checker
Okay,
the
so
same way the
he's
fact
a
checker is
buffoon,
nitpicking.
but
Yeah, what a
it's-
dumbass.
What a dumbass for putting gasoline instead of petroleum reserve. That's fine with me. I like being technically correct, and he is not technically correct here. I don't think it.
He knows the word petroleum. He uses it later in the same paragraph.
I don't think it matters. The economics can economists can play with numbers all day long and give you whatever fucking number you want. If you want it to be 60%, I have no doubt that number came from some economist that wants Trump to win, because economists will lie to you and just make up whatever fucking number they want, and then they'll bend the numbers and they'll bend the dates and the times and the percentages until they get the number they fucking want. Because I don't like economists. I think they're all liars. And the economy's made
Specifically,
up.
if in order for it to be 60% higher, it would have to be at 382 per gallon.
Okay, well, it's for something where I live, so
Yeah, and it's
a
fucking
disingenuous
$5
person,
where I'm at right
it's
now.
$5 in California. So a disingenuous person could take that $5 and say it's $5, which is why you can't trust economists or anybody who's talking about the economy. Trump claims government hired 88,000 IRS agents. They didn't hire agents; they hired workers. Not all of them were agents. So that's the 88,000 figure comes from a 2021 Treasury Department report that estimates the IRS could hire 86,000 full-time employees, not solely enforcement agents, over the course of the decade with a nearly $80 billion investment. So they got $80 billion. They could hire that many employees. I suppose they could hire 88,000 IRS agents. They haven't. He said the government recently hired 88,000 IRS agents. So that is not correct. He is trying to scare people. Maybe we'll come back to it later, but I think all of these things are to induce fear into the people.
I mean, I see where it would come from in a political speech, but it is wrong. So, yeah.
Trump on Biden increasing Americans' taxes 4 times. The president, Donald Trump, repeated
But
his
my
claim.
mom's Facebook repost says 8,800 agents all armed with Uzis and fentanyl cannons.
Right, they're coming for you. Shinseto, they're going to get you. Repeated his claim that Joe Biden wanted to hike people's taxes by 4 times. This is the only administration that said we're going to raise your taxes 4 times what you're paying now. This is false. Just as it was when Trump made the same claim during the 2020 election speech. Biden has proposed quadrupling Americans' taxes. His plan would raise average tax incomes for low-income households by 24, leave them effectively unchanged for middle-income households, and lower tax incomes significantly for the highest-income taxpayers.
So this one in
Mhm.
particular is one that I take issue with because it says increasing Americans' taxes by 4 times. And then they turn around and they're talking about take-home income, right? Or
Sure.
after-tax income. Those are not the same thing. So, for example, if I make $100, right, and $5 of it is taxed away from me, that's 5%. So my take-home is $95, right? If we were to quadruple my tax to $20 instead of 5, right? My take-home is still $80. So it goes from 95% take-home to 80% take-home, which is only a reduction of, when you talk about take-home, it's like, what, 15%? So you can't talk about take-home pay declines when you talk about how much your taxes are being increased. which this whole like everything in this area of the fact check is just talking about people's take-home pay and how much that either declines or increases versus how much are we paying in taxes, and does someone's tax burden quadruple or not?
Does it quadruple? This is suggesting nowhere near the quadrupling Trump claims.
That's because they're talking. Look at the line directly above that. They're talking about after-tax incomes declining. That's not the same thing. Tax burden increasing is not the same thing as an after-tax income decline.
The very biggest burden under the Biden plan would have carried by the very richest households. The Tax Policy Center found that households at the top 0.1% would have seen their after-tax incomes decline.
And that's the problem
more
right
than
there.
20%. I don't know what any of that means. I'm not going to fucking lie to you. This is all gibberish.
I just illustrated it.
I listened to it, and I can't comprehend what you're talking about.
Okay.
I really can't. And that's a failing on my part, I know. But the economy is made up magic witchcraft. It always has been. And what you're talking is this specific brand of witchcraft is different from the other brand of witchcraft.
Okay, so remember when I was talking about the $100 and
Sure.
my original tax is $5, right?
Okay.
Okay, if I quadruple that tax burden to $20, right?
Uh-huh.
So that means that now 20% of my gross income is now taxed as opposed to 5%, right? That's a quadrupling. Okay. Now I used to take home $95 and now I take home $80. And the difference between 95 and 80 when I throw it into this calculator here is 18%. So my after-tax income only declined 18%, but my tax burden did quadruple because I used to pay $5 and now I'm paying $20. So when this website here, this article says that after-tax income only declined by 20% for some people, well, guess what? That doesn't mean that their tax burden did not quadruple.
If you say so. It's all fucking Greek to me, honestly. I swear to God. I'm not kidding. Maybe I'm too fucking stupid to comprehend it, but it still seems like
I don't understand how this is difficult. Five
It is
times
difficult.
4. 5 times 4 is 20, right?
You're telling me that the fucking people on CNN are lying and stupid and wrong, and that they're telling me that Donald Trump is wrong, and Donald Trump is fucking stupid and wrong all the time.
Well,
Everybody's wrong
the
about the
people on
economy all
CNN
the time.
are stupid. The people on
Everyone
CNN are maybe
is
not be
wrong.
stupid and wrong, but Daniel Dale is certainly stupid and wrong.
Everyone on the economy is wrong all the time. There is no one, I mean 0 people on the planet who comprehend the economy and can tell you the truth about it. It is a fever dream that barely even exists. It's like telling me I'm wrong about my dreams.
No. This is
and you're telling me you're
this
wrong
is
about your
numbers.
dreams.
Like
No,
this
it's
is
not.
specific. No, it is.
It's not. That's the thing.
It's
They
literally
put numbers
just
on top
math.
of the dreams. They put numbers on top of the dreams and then tell you that it's numbers, and it's not. It's not real.
CNN clearly didn't use the same metric as Trump statement, so it's an invalid fact check either way.
Okay, so Popog is saying that it's didn't use the same metric as Trump's statement. Okay, so they're measuring different. They're using different measuring sticks. Is that what they're
Yes,
doing here?
that's
Thomas?
exactly what I'm
Okay,
telling you.
great.
Is
They're using
tax
different measuring
burden and
sticks.
after-tax take-home pay is not the same thing.
I don't know what either of those are.
What-
Do
Do you know the difference between gross and net income?
No, I don't.
So when you look at and
And now you're gonna tell me.
when you look at your pay stub, you know how they have a section that says gross pay, and then they have taxes listed, and then there's net pay. And the net pay is less than the gross pay.
If you say so.
Okay. All right. Next.
No, I'm
Next.
not. I'm not being stubborn here. I don't get it. I don't look at those things. I look at how much I have in the account. That's it. That's what I do.
Fair enough.
Because it's all nonsense, and it's all filled with people who are going to lie to you. Donald Trump is going to get out his measuring stick and tell you what he feels and tell what benefits him. And then,
No.
Then his economists are going to get out their measuring stick and tell you what helps them. And then Joe
I'm
Biden's going
telling
to get out
you
his measuring
that the
stick
fact
and
checker
tell
is
him.
obviously using a different metric than
Right,
Trump did.
because it benefits him, right? I'm
No.
being conspiratorial here. Why did that CNN fact checker use a different measuring stick?
Because the CNN fact checker is a fucking dishonest piece of shit.
And it benefits
why.
him to do so, to be that dishonest sack of shit. Everyone in the economy is a dishonest piece of shit who uses their own metrics to benefit themselves, which is why I don't trust anything anybody is talking about, even you, when you talk about the economy. It's
I'm always right
all
about the economy.
made up. It's all, every single person involved has their own measuring stick. None of it is based on solid fact. It's all imaginary. And you can have your
Just
measuring stick that's
because
different than the CNN
there
measuring stick, and Trump's
are ways
got
that
a
people
different
can
measuring stick.
manipulate data doesn't mean that that data is imaginary.
All the data is
If you say so.
manipulated. All of it. Every bit of it. When it comes to the economy, I'm drawing a hard line. I know I'm being a crazy lunatic right now, but the entire economy is... if there are... how many people
Shinsinto
involved?
said economists measure from the balls.
Economists measure from the balls, and everybody measures from a different place. And that's why I can't trust any of them. That's why it drives me nuts. You're telling me one thing, and this guy's telling me a different thing, and Trump's telling me a third thing. And I don't think any of them are correct. Nobody understands how it works, and anybody who tells you they do have a specific, goal in mind. I don't think that you've got a bad goal in mind.
You don't have to know exactly how it works to be able to make predictions. For example, before we knew what gravity is, we still could predict that when an apple fell from a
The
tree, it would
solution
land
is
on the
we
ground.
have to all come together and touch balls so we can have a common base.
Gravity can be measured and is a law of physics. Economics is...
Yeah. Well,
economics is a very soft science. Surrounded by... It's very soft.
Hold on. Economics is literally just human behavioral theory.
And a political
Which is a
speech
soft
starts
science.
measuring mid-shaft to
Sure,
fearmongers.
It is, but it's valid and generally can be used as a predictor for human behavior. So,
If I thought that there were someone who absolutely didn't have a dog in the fight, I might trust them. But every economist has stocks.
I am scared of
Every
mongers.
economist has bias. Every economist wants to do good and wants their investments to do good. They have a dog in the fight. That makes me doubt their independent, completely biased judgment about who's going to win the fight. Does that make sense?
They're always trying to sell me stuff.
They're always trying to sell Popog stuff. All right. Enough crazy Waldo rambling. Trump's
but
claim...
Daniel Dale is an idiot.
Okay,
Just saying.
great. Trump's claim on the situation before the right to try law. So this, I didn't know what the fuck Trump was talking about. I assume this is a capitalism problem, and I think it is. I think he's exaggerating. Former Trump touted the right to try law signed in 2018 in his convention speech on Thursday, which gave terminally ill patients easier access to experimental medications that haven't yet received approval from the Food and Drug Administration. Before the measure was passed, Trump claimed terminally ill patients in the United States would have to go to foreign countries to seek experimental medication or go home to die if they can't afford it. Sounds simple, but it's not. And I got them to agree. Oh, this is Trump saying. Sounds simple, but it's not. I got them to agree that somebody that needs it will, instead of going to Asia or Europe or someplace, or if you have no money, going home and dying. This is misleading. This is not true that terminally ill patients would simply go home and die without access to experimental medications, or would have to go to foreign countries seeking treatments, blah, blah, blah. Prior to Donald Trump signing the law, patients had to ask the federal government for permission to any experimental medications, but the government almost always said yes.
Okay,
The
so
FDA
even
commissioner,
then, it's...
the FDA commissioner said
Letting sick and
99%.
vulnerable load up on ivermectin and just die anyway.
I'll get to that in a minute, Shinsato.
It's still a good law.
It's
I mean,
unnecessary. It's not something to brag about. Scott Gottlieb, who served as Trump's FDA commissioner, told Congress in 2017 that the FDA had approved 99% of the patient requests under its own expanded access program before the law. 99%. Emergency requests for individual patients were granted immediately over the phone.
Requested it, right? I mean,
right.
This removes a barrier to entry that existed before and does not exist now because of this law. It's a good law.
Okay, I'm on board with that, but I don't. So they don't even have to ask anymore?
That's correct. Yeah. You used to have to
It's a
contact the
good cost
FDA
savings
and be
law,
like,
reduces
"Can I
the time
please
for
use
people
this
to ask too."
experimental thing that could save my life, otherwise I'm going to die." And they were like, "Yeah, but now you don't have to go and ask permission to, save your own life." Great.
Okay, you don't have to ask the FDA for this permission. All right, that sounds fine to me. I'm not saying this isn't good. I'm sniffing around for the capitalism.
That he's
sniffing around
overstating the impact, maybe, but at the same time, like, we're talking about Trump's 20 lies during his speech. I mean,
well, they called this one misleading. I mean,
but the title of the article says his lies, doesn't he? Lied 20 times, something like that.
Fact check: Trump makes more than 20 false claims.
Yeah,
20 false claims.
Would you call this one an absolutely false claim?
I agree with him. It's misleading. We were already at 99%.
Titles aren't made by the author, though.
It's entirely possible. 99% is where we were at. If he made it to 100%, great. That's fine with me. I don't see any negative things about this law so far, and it seems fine. But suggesting that they were going home and dying because the FDA was ignoring them, or that the FDA wasn't helping them, is a bit misleading, isn't it? The FDA approved 99%. Emergency ones were done over the phone. Non-emergency requests are generally processed within a few days. This is not people going home to die because they can't get the medicine, because the FDA won't let them. Instead of, if you have no money, going home and dying. If you have no money, going home and dying were Donald Trump's words. Those are the incorrect words. That's not correct. If you asked the FDA, 99% of the time they said yes. If it's an emergency, they did it over the phone. And if it's not an emergency, it's generally processed within a few days.
Did people know to ask the FDA?
I don't know.
I can think of a lot of systems where if you didn't know who to contact to ask for something, you didn't get it.
Well, okay, hang on. So the doctor has said, hey, there's this weird experimental thing that I would like to try. The people don't know about that. The doctors know about that. So the doctor says, hey, this is the weird thing. The doctor would know to contact the FDA. The person, sure. Nobody's going online, finding out what experimental drug they need, and then ordering it via Amazon, and then failing to get it, and then sitting home dying. This is all involving a doctor and insurance companies and stuff like that. So
if anything, I would just call this a nitpick.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Fine. Trump's claim about Russian warships near Cuba. So, former President Donald Trump claimed that in
We don't
his
know
speech
how
on
much
Wednesday.
doctors would pre-filter because they knew the FDA would say no to stage 1 drugs, for example. I have no idea if this is true.
It's a mess, and it's fine. I think it's a fine law. I think he's being over-exaggerating the benefit of it, is what I'm suggesting. I don't think he's didn't pass that law or it's a bad law. I'm saying he's over-exaggerating the good he did. Russian warships and nuclear submarines are operating 60 miles off our coast of Cuba. The press refuses to write about it. So
I'm gonna pass on this one. He's wrong.
Trump's president tends to claim that Russian warships and nuclear submarines are operating close to the United States is misleading. While Russia did not have a nuclear-powered submarine visiting Cuba in June, along with Russian Navy vessels, all of the vessels, including the submarine, have left since. So they're not operating. A group of 4 Russian Navy vessels arrived in Cuba on June 12th as part of what Pentagon and State Department officials stressed is a routine activity, and noted that Cuba has hosted Russian ships every year between 2013 and 2020. Donald Trump was president during those years. A Pentagon spokesperson said that given Russia's long history of Cuban port calls, these are considered routine naval visits, especially in the context of increased U.S. support to Ukraine and NATO exercises. So it's normal and it's routine. So Donald Trump pushing fear about it is nonsense.
Just said I was going to pass on that one.
Okay. Well, you're passing on that one, but I'm not. Donald Trump is trying to scare you.
Trump would never over-exaggerate in a million years. He's the least over-exaggerating president of all time.
It's true, Popog.
All time.
Of all time, for billions of years, he's never exaggerated. So, yeah, this is an exaggeration by Donald Trump to make people afraid. Trump on military equipment left in Afghanistan. And so we left $85 billion worth of military equipment. The $85 billion figure is false. While a significant quantity of military equipment that had been provided to the U.S. and Afghan forces was indeed abandoned to the Taliban upon the U.S. withdrawal, the Defense Department has estimated that this equipment had been worth $1.7 billion, not $85 billion, and a chunk of the roughly $18.6 billion worth of equipment provided the Afghanistan forces between 2025 and 2021, and some of the equipment left behind was rendered inoperable before the U.S. withdrew, so it was already broken, so we left it behind. Other fact checkers have previously explained the $85 billion is a rounded up figure from 83, because he just rounds up, so it's a nice round number. The total amount of money Congress appropriated during the war to fund supporting the Afghan security forces. A minority of this funding was for equipment. So we paid them $83 billion to prop themselves up, and some of it was for equipment. We didn't leave $85 billion worth of military equipment behind.
I agree with the fact checker on this one.
Okay. Not to get on too big a tangent, but I think Donald Trump didn't end the Afghanistan war, right? He didn't end it because this is how it would go down, and somebody knew that. I think whoever ends the Afghanistan war, it's going to look exactly like it did. If Obama had ended it, it would have looked exactly like this. If Trump had ended it, it would look exactly like it did. But they didn't because they're wieners, and they're scared, and they don't want the political blowback from this absolute fucking catastrophe, so they kick the can down the road. Obama's a wiener about it too. He was like, he bragged about it. He promised that he was going to end it. Then he saw the logistics, he saw the blowback, and he saw what was going to happen if he ended it, and wimped out and chose not to.
I don't think that's an
Donald
accurate
Trump personally
characterization.
killed every Taliban in Afghanistan before Biden called in his Taliban cronies to take over.
What do you think of Donald Trump's complaints about the Afghanistan withdrawal? Because the Republicans hate Joe Biden for the Afghanistan withdrawal. They did a whole thing about it.
It was a shit show.
It was always going to be a shit show. I'm saying it doesn't matter who is in charge. That shit show is going to be exactly the same shit show, no matter who's in charge.
Well, the whole point was to make it not a shit show.
Impossible.
Which is
Nobody
why when Trump did have a plan for pulling out of there and ended up extending it by a couple of years because it was going to be a shit show. The whole point is eventually to have a smooth enough departure that it's not a shit show. And Biden was just like, let's rip the Band-Aid off. Here we go.
Okay.
I mean,
Donald Trump doesn't put that plan out because he wants. Well, this is two Santa Claus theory. Have you heard about this? Have I described this to you before?
No.
Donald Trump puts out a plan that he wants to be carried out after the election. So we know 2020 election is happening. He knows it's happening. We all know when it's happening. So he puts this Afghanistan plan.
From all the
and says
records I've read,
2021.
Trump actually set up the shit show through some bad planning. It was always gonna be bad, but as with COVID money, Trump set up a lot of dominoes and Biden ripped.
Yeah, and I think so. Two Santa Claus theory suggests that when you're about to come up to the election, you put together a plan that carries off into the next election, right? So this is the Afghanistan plan. If Donald Trump wins, he carries out the plan maybe, or he puts it off again until the next election after that. Why would you do that? Same thing with tax cuts that end after they're done being president. They do this on purpose. If it goes well, Donald Trump takes credit. If the plan goes well and everything is great, he looks into the camera and says, "That was my plan. Vote for me." Joe Biden just followed my Donald Trump plan and it was great and everybody loved it. If it goes badly, he gets to blame Biden. Oh, it went poorly because you didn't follow my plan. This is your fault. Everything went wrong and it's your fault. Even if he planned out every fucking step, he would still blame Biden for doing it wrong, for doing a bad job. This is what they do with the tax cuts. And if Biden does follow the plan and it goes well, then, I mean, two Santa Clauses. Either heads I win, tails you lose kind of situation.
sure. I mean, it is what it is.
It was going to be a shit show no matter what. If Trump had done his plan, it would have looked exactly the same. If Obama had done this plan, it would have looked exactly the same. We gave $85 billion and we still can't do it properly. There's no way to do it properly. And that shit. I think, I know you don't like her, but Maytag was complaining about endless wars. But she also complains that Biden ended a war. I'm very confused. I don't think she has any ethics. What I get from lunatics on the right is, hey, we hate endless wars, and we hate that Joe Biden ended one. It sounds insane to me.
It's not the fact of ending a war, it's the manner in which it was handled that they don't like, which, to be fair, we didn't lose $85 billion in equipment, which is what Trump's claim was. It was a disaster, and the Taliban, who we spent years fighting, is now in control of Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
But the end of the war did come, which is what we wanted. It's not about the ending of the war, it's about the manner in which it happened.
Okay. I think it could have been a lot worse. I mean,
a lot worse, could have been a lot better.
Could have been worse, could have been better. We could have continued doing it. If Biden was a really big wiener, he would have continued it for a few more years until somebody and kicked that can down the road again. I think that's what Trump and Obama both did. I think George Bush set up an entire fucking shit show, and there's no way that you could undo that shit show. Moving on. So, okay, yeah, right.
Let's just go back there and try again in 20 years.
Fopog's got the idea. Trump's false claim that the world was...
Isn't that an inevitability?
During the administration. Yeah, we'll have to go back. Trump claimed that many others at the RNC did, that while he was president, the world was at peace. Our opponents inherited a world of peace and turned it into a planet of war. I'm absolutely on the fact checker side. Trump claimed about world peace under his presidency is false.
Civil wars in 3 countries and 4 countries. Okay.
We were still in Afghanistan.
And then they talk about Israeli-Palestine and...
Syria, Yemen, Somalia, Ethiopia's gray region. I don't even know about that one. The Israeli-Palestine conflict was also ongoing. Conflicts with Israel and Hezbollah. I mean, world peace.
And then, all right, so civil wars in 4 countries, and then Israel versus 4 other countries that were not as hot as they are now.
Fighting continued between Ukraine and pro-Russian forces in the Donbass region. That's what I'm saying. Like, the Donbass was still a thing. It wasn't as big as it is today, but it was still happening. They were doing Cold War shit. Russia's been doing Cold War shit in the Donbass for 10 fucking years. Or 10 years before they started the hot war shit. World peace was not correct.
Not correct, but more peaceful than it's been for more peaceful than it's been on the previous presidencies and the one after his, I would say.
Sure, things got worse after he was gone.
They have, and they were worse before he became president too.
No, they were the same. No, I don't. No. A couple of things got worse, but that's not because it doesn't have anything to do with him. It has nothing to do with him. He's looking into the camera and telling the American people, I brought you world peace. And he's a liar. And there was war before I got elected. I got elected. It was all peaceful.
More peaceful
and then
because
after,
shit hadn't heated up while he was there.
I think he's selling horseshit to the people. I think he's lying to them, suggesting that he caused the world peace and everything went wrong after he left. I think those things would have gone wrong just the exact same if he had been in charge. But again, it's impossible to prove those things, and it's impossible to not prove those things. You know.
Sure.
This is what I don't like about him, is that I think that he is just slightly disingenuous enough for people to believe it. Our opponents inherited a world at
I think
peace.
healing his worst downside as his biggest upside. He's a lunatic with his hand on the nuke button, so everybody else has to calm the fuck down.
We'll talk about that in a minute, Popog. I think you're onto something there, Popog. He declares, Donald Trump says, you can't vote for Biden, he'll cause World War III. Vote for me, because if anybody steps out of line, I'll start World War III. I don't think that's a good fucking selling point. That's insane. That's his actual fucking message. That's his actual message. If you reelect Biden, you'll get World War III. If you elect me, anybody steps out of line, I'll fucking start World War III. I don't see the difference between those two, honestly.
I think the characterization is hilarious. I guess
it's the brag that he makes. He talks about that. He brags about that. He's like, yeah, if anybody steps out of line, I'll stomp on them, causing World War III. This wouldn't have happened. Russia wouldn't be stepping out of line. Madness. I don't think. And why would let's follow the logic there. Donald Trump says, if I were president in 2020 and president right now, Russia would not have stepped out of the line. Why would Russia not have stepped out of the line? Why would that happen? Because he would bomb them.
Okay.
Which is what we're doing now.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are.
We're bombing Russia?
We are giving Ukraine all of our equipment so they
Not
can
the
bomb
same
Russia.
thing.
Okay, so it would be worse then under Donald Trump. Joe Biden has given our equipment to Ukraine to bomb Russia, but under Trump, he would bomb Russia.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds worse. Sounds worse for American. That sounds worse for world peace. Donald Trump, worse for world peace.
Oh, it's definitely worse for world peace in
great.
terms of if Russia invaded Ukraine while Trump was in office, if he indeed would have bombed Russia as a result, like direct conflict with them, then that is worse for world peace. But the threat of that actually happening, if that would have prevented Russia from invading Ukraine, is better for world peace.
Carry a bug stick with crazy bitch bedazzle on it.
So we can't vote for Joe Biden because he's going to cause World War III with his middle of the road.
Damn autocorrect.
Weakness with his Well,
with his middle of the road.
It's not even electing Joe Biden; it's electing all of Joe Biden's handlers at this point.
Okay, that's fine.
I mean, it's
I don't
electing Bernie, or
That's
not
fine.
Bernie. Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah, fine, great. He's a corpse. I'm not arguing that. We elect the corpse that is the shambling zombie that is Biden, and that will make him give equipment to Ukraine to bomb Russia. But if we elect Trump, Russia will be scared of World War III, so they won't act.
Yeah, they can't handle us, and they know it.
I think that's wishful thinking.
Are you kidding? They can't handle Ukraine.
I know. It's wishful. Okay, no.
You're
You're misunderstanding. I'm not saying that the wishful thinking is the Ukraine with our second string equipment. I'm saying it's wishful thinking that they won't act. I think it's wishful thinking that Donald Trump is so scary and nightmarish and everybody's afraid of them that they won't do the thing that they want to do anyway. That's what the wishful thinking part. That Russia would not have invaded. It's wishful thinking when Donald Trump says, "If I were in charge, this wouldn't have happened." That's wishful thinking.
So 2 presidents before Trump and the president after Trump, all of them had Russia invading somebody during their presidencies, like a new
apologize
invasion.
for putting that out into the universe.
And then during Trump's presidency, no new invasions happened.
Coincidence.
Okay.
Unintentional side effect. Surprise. They were busy that year. Has nothing to do with him. Wishful thinking that it is because of him is what I'm saying. I've seen no evidence that it is because of him.
And that's fair,
Because
but
they were still
if
doing Cold
that
War shit in the Donbass.
pattern of events happened,
Mhm.
if that pattern of events happened while I was president, I would also take credit for that.
Okay.
So
That's fine. Russia was still doing Cold War shit in the Donbass that entire time that Trump was president. And what do I have to point to? I have other incorrect statements that he's made about no balloons. Well, there were. It's just that we didn't report about it and we weren't talking about it. We weren't thinking about it. So he's lying to you when he says no balloons. No Chinese balloons came over. He's a liar. We know for a fact that that's a lie. So I suspect that China was doing that even though they knew he was in office, right?
how come that didn't make it into this article?
I don't know. I don't think it's down at the bottom, but I don't know why that didn't.
I
Maybe
bought so many balloons
forgot.
from China during the Trump presidency.
I know, so many balloons. Okay, we're moving on to the next one. Trump on Venezuela's crime rate. So in Venezuela, crime is down 72% because foreign governments are sending their country's criminals to the U.S. Trump greatly overestimated the Biden era decline in crime in Venezuela, at least according to the limited statistics that are publicly available. I don't know if I trust any stat coming out of Venezuela, and while it is certain that at least some criminals have joined law-abiding Venezuelans in a mass exodus from the country amid the economic crisis of the last decade, there is no proof Venezuela's government has deliberately emptied prisons for migration purposes or intentionally sent ex-prisoners to the United States. And this is, again, one of those things that he talks
why
about
the
a
hell
lot.
would we trust Venezuela?
I don't trust Venezuela's numbers. I don't trust them not to do that, but there's no evidence that they're emptying their prisons the way Donald Trump suggests. They're sending their criminals.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, I don't know where he's getting his numbers from or
His
what,
handlers
but-
made it up. That's what I suspect anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, I'm
I'll
just throwing
I'll-
aspersions.
tack this one on as a W for the fact checkers.
Source
yeah.
trust me, bro.
Trust me, bro. Gothcash. Yeah, you're right. Trump's evidence-free claim on immigration. Former President Donald Trump claimed on Thursday
Venezuela
that
also doesn't even have the power to control their own prisons. The majority of their prisons are run by
yeah.
gangs, and the government literally just drops off food supplies into the prison.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise
Angela,
me.
Therium good documentaries on the subject.
Yeah, it's a mess in Venezuela. That's why so many people are running away, because it's a fucking mess. Thursday, he said that immigrants are coming from prisons, they're coming from jails, they're coming from mental institutions and the insane asylums. Terrorists are coming in at numbers we've never seen before. There is no evidence for Trump's claim that jails around the world are being emptied so that prisoners can travel to the U.S. as migrants, nor for his claim that foreign governments are also emptying out mental facilities. And I don't think the terrorist thing is true either. I wonder if this says anything about the terrorists. 2 immigration organizations told CNN that the time they had not heard anything that would corroborate Trump's story, as did 3
I believe
experts
they
at
can't
organizations
control their
favorable.
crime in Venezuela, so how can I think their government is competent enough to ship people thousands of miles LMAO?
Good point. CNN's own search did not produce any evidence. The fact check org also found nothing. So he's just making this up.
Sure.
But right-wing website Breitbart News, supposed federal intelligence report warning Border Patrol agents that Venezuela had done this, but that vague and unverified claim about Venezuela's actions has never been corroborated. So he's over-exaggerating. And I don't think the terrorist part is real either. If there are, this is again a thing for Republican narratives that don't mesh. One, the border is a horrible nightmare hellscape that every inch of it is owned by some sort of drug cartel.
It
And
depends how we define terrorists.
the terrorists from
Every conspiracy
Iran are sneaking
requires
in.
the government to be so
through that.
incompetent they can't fix anything, but also so competent they can do anything.
You can't have both of those. Both of those can't be true. I know Donald Trump can't tell the difference between an Iranian and a Mexican, but they can. The Mexican drug cartel that owns every inch of the border can tell the difference between a Mexican and an Iranian, and they would kill the Iranian immediately. The violent, scary, monster drug cartels that do not want the government on the border would not allow a fucking Al-Qaeda person to cross that border. That would bring the military to the border.
If you're allergic to reality, they can be.
You see what I'm going for?
Yep.
So, this is a typical Republican narrative that it's super dangerous and the terrorists are coming across. You can't have both. It's one or the other. It's wide open and terrorists are coming across. Okay, great. But you can't have the drug cartels owning the whole damn thing. But again, more fear from Donald Trump. He wants you to be afraid.
I think the cartels may be willing to cross others for the right price, but bringing that level of heat on the cartel doesn't help their business interests in the long term.
Right.
At Pop OG42 Deep State Lingo.
Let's do. Our crime rate is going up while crime statistics all over the world are going down. Our crime rate is up while crime statistics all over the world are going down. Crime rate is down, but so they're saying this is false because our crime rate is actually down. Would you disagree with that?
At Shinsinto Lingo is a deep state term. Welcome to the Illuminati.
I don't think so.
You don't think it's down?
No, I don't think that I disagree with the
fact checker here. Okay.
fact checker. Yeah.
Gotcha. So Trump's claim about a dramatic increase in the crime rate is false. The official data says that it's down, and I think that it's down too, but Donald Trump needs you to be afraid, so he needs to push the idea that it is on the rise. And crime data is always fucking difficult, just like the economy. Somebody will bend the numbers around. Popog disagrees with this fact check. I'm not sure why.
Thank you for following I Can't Buttons. At Pop OG42 provides sources
I
FBI
can't buttons
crime
just
data
turning
is
frog
not
gay.
comparable year to year.
Thanks for
Thank
following.
you for following Goth Gash.
Turning frogs gay up in here.
I'm interested in what Popog has to say about.
Popog, tell us why you think the
this
FBI
one.
crime data is not comparable year to year. Again, see, this is that same shit as the economy. If you look at the numbers from this direction, it looks completely different. But if you look at the numbers from that direction, it looks fine. This is just more statistics lying to you. And I'm not saying Popog's lying. I'm saying that he's going to look at the numbers from a different angle, and it's going to give him a different conclusion, which is why you can't trust numbers and statistics. I hate it. I appreciate you guys following.
The FBI says not to compare their numbers year to year.
The FBI says don't compare our numbers year to year because you'll
Source trust me bro, I saw a video on YT of people stealing, so that's indicative of a trend. No further thought needed.
Right.
Because they are from different number of the police stations.
Okay, so we don't have a good way to gather data. So everybody's lying when they say that the number is up or down. Everyone's always lying about all the numbers all the time. That falls within my narrative.
I tried looking into crime statistics and it turns out it was just Hunter B's dong. Check out Waldo's videos https://www.youtubecom at Waldo Videos.
Shinsinto, in a minute, we'll talk about your favorite dong. So yeah, crime data is always difficult.
We should all take a 200-level statistics class to understand sampling and trends.
And even then, they can still lie to
The
you.
best data is the BJS Crime Victimization Survey.
BJS Crime Victimization Survey. All right, I'm going to write that down.
It was in MTG Google Drive.
BJS Crime Victimization Survey. Popog, does that say crime is up or down? I'm writing it down. I'll Google it later. Most of the people,
It's
especially
way
here at
slower,
CNN.
so it doesn't say shit yet.
Oh, good. It's real numbers, which means it takes 10 fucking years for them to show up. I'm glad that's how we have to make our decisions. You're only allowed to make smart, intelligent decisions 10 years after shit goes down. So CNN is calling this false. I think it's also false. I think from some of the data it suggests that it's going down.
Absence
but
of
data's
data
a liar.
is not proof.
Data's a liar. Trump blames Biden administration for greatest invasion in history. The greatest invasion in history is taking place right here in our country. They're coming from every corner of the earth, not just from South America, but from Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. They're coming at levels we've never seen before. It's an invasion, indeed, and this administration does nothing to stop them. So they're calling this one false because the Biden administration did pass a Republican bill. They tried to get a Republican bill
That's how I
passed.
drive my car. I record my drives and then watch the video on a 10-year delay and turn the wheel and press the pedals based on that.
Right. So, yeah, the illegal crossings of the U.S. border dropped in June, but it's still very high. I'm not saying the numbers aren't high at the moment. Thomas, what do you think about this one?
Oh, this one's interesting. The encounters with illegal immigrants for almost a decade, actually, were down below 500,000.
Mm-hmm.
So even before Trump, they were down. And then basically as soon as Biden took office.
Border
They
crossings are
were
seasonal. Did it drop in June compared to previous years?
they were up above 2 million in 2021. So they're and by the way, 2 million is greater than any year since the earliest I've seen on a graph, which is 1990. So yes, you have a greater number of people coming over, at least according to the metric, under Biden than under any president in history.
I wouldn't argue with that fact.
Now, the idea that they're doing nothing, that's a question in and of itself. And these guys say that they are limiting asylum seeker crossings and shutting off access to asylum for migrants who cross the border illegally, but I'm not sure what that even means.
Because it's more of that.
And when did they do that, by the way? Last month? The Biden administration did this? It says it in that last paragraph. Last month? What have they been doing for the last 4 fucking years?
Probably
or 3 years, excuse me.
Probably nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
Which
this is
all
so
for.
The fact checker is saying, "Oh, last month they did this because it's a
thing.
political vulnerability, and they know it is because it is one. Because they have done nothing for the last 3 years.
They did nothing for 3 years, and then they did something a couple of months ago.
Because they knew it was going to fuck them in the election.
Right. Which I still think is a dumb idea. You turn it on its head. These people coming here are good. Give them a path to citizenship. Make them Americans. The problem will go away. Charge them a fee for coming in incorrectly. It's fine. I don't even mind that. Don't give them a tax refund.
So on this one, I'm calling the fact checker a fucking liar.
The fact checker is being misleading. I think you're right. They did nothing for 3 years, and then they did a little bit right there at the end because they wanted to look good for the normies in the middle who haven't yet realized that immigration is good, and we should all be high-fiving each other and saying, yeah, come on in, here's the steps you need to follow to become an American. But so you and I are both disagreeing with this fact checker, but from different directions. I think Biden's a wiener. Again, Dems are wieners. They know what they want. They just can't tell the normies that. The Dems like they like immigration, and they want these people to show up, and they want a path to citizenship, but they're not allowed to say that because the normies in the middle get scared of it. Because the right hates the idea of more people coming into the country, and the normies get scared by that idea if the right tells them. So you need a left wing that's properly explaining it to them. Hey, these guys are good for our economy. They're helpful. More Americans is a good thing. If you've got economic issues with them, which you should, I understand there are economic worries about a ton of immigrants. It's a capitalism problem. If they can't get a house, it's not because the government is stopping them from getting a house. It's the companies that own the houses that refuse to build more.
Sure. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, with this one, the fact checker's a bitch. Holmes Librand, you're a bitch.
I think you're right. And they're being a wiener in the way that Dems usually are, is that they throw out one little thing that doesn't really do anything, and even then it's a Republican bill. That bill that they're talking about, that last month, that's just a Republican bill, not a Democrat one. So Biden cobbled together some Republican talking points, turned it into a bill that then Donald Trump told Republicans not to vote for. And then it got shot down, and then he did it through executive action anyway. This is bad politics. I think all of our politics about immigration are wrong and bad, and both sides suck for different reasons. Trump makes claim that grocery prices rising under Biden. Groceries are up 57%. The Trump claims that grocery prices are up 57% are false and could use some context. Again, this is the imaginary economy that doesn't exist and no one can measure. They're going back to inflation at 9%. Food prices at grocery stores did outpace overall inflation. Still, grocery prices didn't rise to the extent Trump claims. Annual food and grocery inflation peaked at 11% and 13, up 21. Again, yeah, it just depends on who's looking at the numbers and when. 57 is not the number that these guys came up with. But again, they probably have a different measuring stick.
Probably. I mean, over the course of 3 years, so if you take an original price of, let's say, $10, and you increase it by 11% to $11.10, and then you again increase it by 13.5%, that $11.10 $1.10 increased by 13.5% brings you to like 12.50, 60 something. And then if you do it again for a third year, you're looking at $14 ish, which would be 40% higher than the original number. And that's for 3 years worth of inflation. So I actually don't know if the number is up 21% from when Biden took office, and are they like, how are they calculating this? But their
Exactly.
numbers themselves don't actually match up, because if you take 11.4% inflation and 13.5% inflation over 2 years, and then you have a third year, it's not going to be just 21%.
Okay. Different measuring sticks. Just like when we were talking about the economy, because this is a big part of the economy. Trump will get economists who use a certain measuring stick that push their agenda. And then this CNN guy is going to get economists, and they have a different measuring stick. They measure from a different part of the balls that gets them a different answer, because that's part of their agenda. Everyone telling you a percentage within the economy is pushing an agenda. Everyone. So move on to Trump's misleading claim about energy independence. This is, Donald Trump said that we were energy independent. They've been saying this for years. This is misleading. Energy independent is a political phrase, not a literal phrase. It can be defined in various ways, and under Biden, the U.S. has continued to satisfy the same definitions it satisfied under Trump. U.S. production of oil and gas have set records under Biden. Energy independent doesn't mean the U.S. uses no foreign energy, or that it's untethered from the global energy markets. This wasn't the case under Trump, and it still isn't under Biden. So what do you think? I know you have a lot to say about the energy market, Thomas.
So the fact checker is right that energy independence is a silly term.
I agree.
Because regardless of whether or not, so the idea of energy independence in the first place is that we produce enough energy to run ourselves if we wanted to, right? Where we wouldn't have to import energy from elsewhere in order to maintain our country. And that's literally just a metric of like, how much energy does our country consume versus how much do we produce, and are we above that? And yes, the United States has been above that for a while now. But we do export a great deal of the energy products that we produce, and we also import a great deal of energy products. And that's a result of global trade. Yeah, I mean, energy independence, did we exceed the level of energy production than energy consumption under Trump? Yes, we did. And have we continued to do so under Biden? Yes. So yeah, I agree with the fact checker. And I agree with the experts in energy policy that say that it's a stupid term.
Okay, great. I think it's just a buzzword. Short, pithy, wrong. That is what Donald Trump needs. That's what he likes. That's what his voters love. Short, pithy, wrong. Energy independence. Bam. Short, it's pithy, it's wrong. Drill, baby, drill. It's short, it's pithy, it's wrong. And that is, they fit on bumper stickers. They're easy to say. They're easy to chant. They're easy to spout while you're gish galloping and saying 1,000 other things. And I think that's why he keeps saying it. Drain the swamp. Short, pithy, wrong. Trump's false claims on his tax cuts. Again, his tax cuts, we got a credit for the war and defeating ISIS and so many things. The great economy, the biggest tax cuts ever, the biggest regulation cuts ever, the creation of Space Force, the rebuilding of our military. We did so much. I think there's a lot of lies in that sentence. Was it the greatest economy ever, Thomas, while he was there?
I don't know. That's hard to quantify.
Exactly. It's hard to quantify.
Not.
It's short, it's pithy, and probably wrong. Biggest regulation cuts. I actually do believe that. I'm willing to bet he did cut more regulations than anybody else.
I'd be willing to bet the same thing. Yeah.
But I think that's a dumbass idea.
I don't think it is.
I think the only thing that can prevent runaway capitalism is regulation. The creation of the Space Force, which I didn't think it uncreated. Do they even still exist?
They do. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure. I thought they got unfunded or unused or something like that. The rebuilding of our military. They say it a lot. I think it's short, it's pithy, and it's wrong. The military wasn't unfunded and falling apart in 2015, and then he made it better. It's the same as it's always been. It still gets billions and billions and billions of dollars, and it's been exactly the same. The recruiting numbers are different, and we can discuss that why, but it's not like they didn't have bullets and ammunition and stuff like that, like the way he says it is. I think he's exaggerating. Short, pithy, wrong.
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know what rebuilding of our military even means. As far as I'm aware, every branch of the military is struggling with recruiting right now, in fact.
Yes.
And a recent bill supposedly is going to increase lower enlisted wages by something like 20%.
It's going to increase, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like the military in terms of its pay scale, like if you start everybody out, let's say at like the lowest person gets $10 per month, and then the next person gets 20, and after that gets 30, and everybody over the scale gets an extra $10 over the last one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you do, let's say, a 5% increase in wages for each of these in a given year, right? Well, that 5% for the guy only making $10 is now $10.50. Or no, $10.50. But for the guy making $20, he's now making $21, right? And the guy making $100, well, he's now making $105.
Mm-hmm.
And as you compound those percentage increases year over year, which is what the government has done, eventually the guy that was originally making $10 is only making 15, while the guy that was making $100 is now making like 250.
Okay.
Right? Because the percentage increases, they scale, right?
Sure.
And so the lower enlisted now are receiving a 20% pay raise with this next bill that's supposed to go into effect on the 1st.
Okay.
Which is supposed to bring them more in line with the relative increase that we've seen at the top of the scale.
Okay.
Which is really nice, and I would say is probably going to do more for recruiting than a lot of other things.
Paying them more. Brilliant.
Yes, yeah. Imagine
I
that
love
you increase wages and suddenly people want to work for you.
Yeah, interesting. I love this.
What
idea.
a thought.
Great idea. All right. So yeah, I've never understood what rebuilt our military in, and so
yeah, I don't know either.
I think it's short, pithy, wrong. I think that's what he does mostly all the time. Then okay, let's move on to the next one. Trump's false claim: U.S. had no inflation during his presidency. He did say this: "We had no inflation." Thomas, did they have no inflation?
It was like 2 or 3%.
It could be low, but it wasn't
per
nothing.
year.
I think he used the word destroy inflation. We destroyed inflation. Did they destroy inflation? I don't think so. It might have been the speaker right before him or something like that said Donald Trump destroyed inflation. That sounds like they don't know what inflation is. I claim to barely know anything about the economy, but inflation is not something that you can just cancel. It doesn't just work that way.
I get that. Well, actually, you can, because if you reduce the money supply, or if you go into a recession, then you actually have deflation. Where
right, but that's just negative inflation. I mean, that's still the thing that exists. It exists.
It's the opposite, though.
Okay.
Now, inflation was very low under Trump. And in fact, this article says 8% during Trump's entire 4 years was the inflation. Which it used to be that the Federal Reserve, so the inflation is generally managed by the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve will set rates for its interest in terms of rates increase when inflation is high because they want to bring inflation down, and rates decrease when inflation is low or when the economy is struggling, when jobs are struggling, because they want to make the availability of money more cheap. And 8% over 4 years is basically like a 1.5% per year inflation rate, which is absolutely phenomenal.
Okay.
And by the way, the Fed's target for inflation used to be 2%. Now it's 3% because it's been so out of control for the last few years.
Okay.
But 2% inflation is like the ideal.
Okay, great. We had no inflation is short, pithy.
We had no inflation is
pithy,
short for it. Well, it's shorthand for our inflation was absolutely on target and was the correct amount. Right now, we're experiencing inflation that's well above what anyone would expect. It's pricing people out of basic necessities. It's crazy.
Okay.
Whereas what Trump is saying here, and it is an exaggeration to say no inflation, inflation was on target during those 4 years.
And if he had said that, they wouldn't have called it false. If he said inflation's on target.
I'm going to call this one a nitpick.
I'm suggesting it's short, pithy wrong. He doesn't care that it is incorrect. Does Trump comprehend what inflation is? I don't think he does.
It's not
comprehends prices.
Hold on a second. It's not a matter of what Trump comprehends as whether it's correct or not. It's what the voters comprehend. And
right. They can't comprehend that complicated thing that you just said.
If the price of your eggs for a dozen eggs went from $1 to $1.08, let's say, during Trump's presidency, you're probably not going to notice it, right? You'd say there's no inflation. If the price of a dozen eggs goes from $1 to $1.80 under Biden, you're looking at a much bigger difference. This is like at some point there's a threshold to which people will notice it, and no inflation is just like, look, under me, nobody noticed that your eggs went from $1 to $1.08. Right.
The actual explanation, the long-term
but he's giving a political speech. I mean,
yeah. So he needs it to be short. He needs it to be pithy, and he doesn't care if it's wrong. We had no inflation.
It's not even
Short,
necessarily.
pithy,
I mean, it's wrong technically, but on the face of it, how much inflation do we really have? Not very much at all.
I agree
Especially
with you. I agree with you.
comparatively.
But that's not what he's saying. That because he is a salesman. He is a car salesman. That's what he's doing. He's selling a car to the American people, and he's doing it slightly dishonestly. That's part of the reason I don't like him that much. I think our world has complicated, difficult issues, and it cannot be solved by short, pithy wrong.
Show me on the doll where inflation touched you. Is there a wallet on the doll anywhere? I
It's
put
right
it
there in
through
the
the back pocket.
Yeah, right in the back pocket. Drill baby drill. Short, pithy wrong. That's what I'm going to say. So again, by doing drill baby drill, we will lead to large scale decline in prices. Is he correct here?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not going to argue that. I don't think that is incorrect. I think that if you drill up more oil, it will lower prices. I can agree with that.
I don't even know where the fact checker is coming from on this one. It's straight up just true that if you produce more of a good, the value of that good goes down.
Right, and I think that's correct. The fact checker has a different yardstick again, because this is economics again. Economics. Anytime you deal with economics, everybody has their own yardstick, and they all fucking disagree with each other. Maybe that's the way I should be phrasing this complaint about economics. Ella Nielsen has a different yardstick than Donald Trump, and a different yardstick than you, and a different yardstick from me. I'm the only one with no yardstick.
And we've had the conversation about oil production before, and the fact checker is making the same argument essentially that I've made before, where it's the president doesn't have direct control over how much we drill, right? But we do have direct control over what is our stance towards energy. What do we do in terms of approving new rigs and whatnot? If you don't approve new rigs for 2 years, which that's what Biden did, you are going to see a slower growth in oil production.
Okay.
Because new rigs produce oil at a much greater rate than older rigs. There's diminishing returns from them. The fact that Biden spent 2 years not approving new drilling on federal lands definitely impaired our ability to increase our production. The fact that we're at the highest production today than we have been ever is actually kind of funny, because we could be even higher than we currently are. It's a matter of the Biden administration's refusal for multiple years to allow new drilling on federal lands that caused problems for our drilling. And yes, if we were I think we're at 12 million barrels per day right now. If we were at 15 or 16, the entire global oil market would be at an oversupply, which would put our our price per barrel down in like the $30 and $40 a barrel versus the 80 something we're seeing now.
Okay. I'm not arguing with any of that, but that's incredibly complicated. It is incredibly difficult to comprehend. It is difficult to stand on a podium and discuss that with a crowd of cheering people So he says something short and pithy, and maybe
Well,
correct.
I
Go,
mean,
baby, Trump.
it's
Short and
actually
pithy.
still just correct. You you
Short and
can lower
pithy,
gas
correct.
prices. Yeah, I
Short,
mean,
pithy, correct.
now
That was all of the fact checking that CNN did on Donald Trump's speech. So everything lower on that article is Mike Pompeo and shit like that. We don't need to listen to him. He's not running for president.
Hooray, what was the final score?
I didn't keep score. Donald Trump's a liar.
Pressing the thumbs up button will release chemicals in your human brain that will make you feel.
I am biased and knew that ahead of time, so I don't know if Thomas kept score. When he gets back from the bathroom, I'll ask him if he kept score. I've turned the Lady Canooch back on, so meme it up for a few minutes. If you're watching, press the like button, press the subscribe button. Got a couple of new followers today. Super cool. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. You're a big part of this little stream. So let's see. That was the end. I don't know if you caught it before you head off. That was the end of the CNN document about Donald Trump. Popog wants to know if you kept a score the whole time.
I think we reviewed what 17 of these,
I think
or
it was
no,
all 20 of
15
them.
of these.
We
didn't quite get
fly
through all
through
the way.
the first thing. I'll give you my score. You can give us your score as well. So what we got was inflation. You were saying that was false or misleading? You were saying that one was false, right?
Well,
Or
I'm
you were
saying
that
this
was
one
misleading. You were saying
was
that was misleading.
the fact checker was misleading
Okay.
on this one.
So let's go with Donald Trump then. So Trump's the important person, not the fact checker here. So Trump was correct, wrong, misleading.
It's unknowable, is
Okay.
my argument, because the basket of goods is different from 1920 versus today.
Okay, great. I'm going to say that he was pushing fear. Misleading claim about North Korean missile launches. Was Donald Trump correct about this one, or was he?
Then we agree this one was nitpicking.
We agreed it was nitpicking, and Donald Trump is doing it to push
I'll give a
fear.
half point for that one.
So fear is what he was pushing there. Trump on his claims on defeating ISIS in the first couple of months. So
I think the fact checker was wrong on this one.
fact checker's wrong on that one. Okay, great. I would
I'm
suggest
at
that
a half point out of 3,
This is patting himself on the back and not pushing.
and
fear
I'll give another
specifically.
half point for this one.
Half
So
point for
we're
that
looking
one.
at
Okay.
1 out of 4.
So patting himself
This
on
one
the
he
back.
was wrong at 2 out of 5.
Medicare, Social Security. So he's pushing fear. Trump on trade deals
Trade
with
deal
China.
with I'll give a half point for this one. 2.5 out of 6.
Okay.
Gas prices.
gas
I think this
prices.
one's. I'm not on the fact checker side for this one. That's 2.5 out of 7.
Fear. Trump claims government hired 88,000 IRS agents.
I'll do a 3.5 out of 8.
Okay. Fear. Trump on Biden increasing American taxes by 4 times.
The fact checker didn't use the same statistic that Trump was using, so didn't provide any rebuttal. So it's 3.5 out of 9.
Okay. Fear. Trump claimed on the situation before the right to try law.
I'm gonna go with 3.5 out of 10.
That's fine. Trump's claims that Russian warships near Cuba.
4.5 out of 11.
Okay. Fear. Trump on military equipment left in Afghanistan.
5.5 out of 12.
Okay. I don't see a whole lot of fear in that one. Just complaining about Biden. Trump's false claim that the world was at peace during his administration.
I'm willing to give a half point for this one.
Okay.
So 6 out of 13.
Fear. Trump on Venezuela's crime rate.
7 out of 14.
7 out of 14. Okay. Fear. Be afraid of the Venezuelan crime. People coming across the border. Evidence-free claim on immigration.
Oh boy. 8 out of 15.
8 out of 15. Yeah. Okay. I'm suggesting he's just pushing fear on immigrants. Be afraid of the immigrants. U.S. crime statistics, where crime is actually going down, but he says it's going up.
Yeah, 9 out of 16.
9 out of 16. Fear, for sure. Be afraid of crime. Blames Biden administration for greatest invasion in history.
9 out of 17.
9 out of 17. That's so you think that there is an invasion?
This one was specifically contesting the idea that the administration is doing nothing, and the fact that the Biden administration did one thing last month that they should have done 3 years ago. I'm not giving them a single point for that. No.
Is it an invasion?
I mean, are the people from another country crossing our border and encroaching upon our territory? Yes. I mean,
but they're not doing
you
so
can
because they want to
Hold
take
on.
over. An invasion.
The fact
suggests
checker here
that
was
they're going
not
to take-
contesting.
I know,
No.
because he's
The
a
fact
wiener.
checker here was not contesting the word invasion.
Okay, great.
All right?
He should have.
They're
If he had any
talking
balls,
about
he
illegal
would have.
immigration.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
But it's 9 out of 17. Sorry.
9 out of 17. That's fine. Fear. Be afraid of the immigrants. Trump makes claims about grocery prices under Biden.
9 out of 18.
9 out of 18. Fear. Be afraid that the eggs are going to cost more.
They
Trump's
do.
misleading claim about energy independence. It's a political
I think it
phrase.
is a stupid term, so I'll give this one 10 out of 19.
10 out of 19. Okay. And then Trump's false claims on his tax cuts. We got 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was not the largest in history, either in a percentage of gross domestic product or inflation adjusted dollars.
Did we cover this one?
We might have
Wait,
skipped
why
over
did you
it
give
by
a point for the grocery price one, Thomas?
Did I? Where's the
10. I think we did energy independence. Then I was looking at this one when you said you had to go, and I thought we were done. And then we might have skipped over that one accidentally. False claims on his tax cuts. We got credit for the war. We defeated ISIS. So many things. Great economy. Biggest tax cuts ever. The biggest regulation cuts ever. Because I said.
Wait, did I give a point
Space
for the
Force.
grocery prices one?
I
don't give a
remember.
point for that one.
Okay.
We're at like a half. A half of the ones we've seen so far are valid, and the other half are not.
Okay.
No inflation. I'm not giving any points on that one.
You said 818 and then 919. It should be 819.
8.5. Okay.
Yeah,
We're
you're
at
right.
8.5. 8 of 19 is where we're at. No inflation.
I'm not giving anything for no inflation. I'm not giving anything for oil drilling and gas prices. And then we didn't talk about Pompeo or
Well, we're not going to
videos
talk
or
about
anything
Pompeo.
like that,
No.
so.
We're going to stop at the 20. So you're thinking that half of these
Over
actually
half,
are
yeah.
lies.
Over half of this fact check is shitty. It's a piece of shit.
Did Donald Trump lie 10 times? That's what I'm trying to get to. I don't care if I do care if he's lying, but what has he done with this speech? Fear, 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 fear. Be afraid of the immigrants. Be afraid of the people that aren't from our country. Be afraid that Joe Biden's going to raise your prices. Be afraid of all the gas prices going up. Be afraid of Russia. Be afraid of all the other
I
parts of
don't
the country.
care if he's
Be
lying.
afraid.
I just assume it by default.
What did you think of this speech?
I actually thought it was fun. I mean, I know when I watch him when it's like that's a little vague or that's not quite correct, but I'm not going to sit here and just call him like I'm not going to call those things lies though, right? Like if he's vague about something, but it could be accurate. Like there's a point at which when you're giving a political speech where if you get too technical, you're going to lose your audience,
Right.
and he knows that, and the technicalities don't make the speech any better. Like when you can say I had no inflation, but the actual reality is inflation was exactly on target for all 4 years of your presidency. That like which one is the one that's going to play well in a speech, right? Nobody cares. Right. Nobody even knows that we have a target for inflation in the first place of like 2%, which is what it used to be, is 2% for any given year, right? But saying inflation on target is not as effective as saying we didn't have any inflation. And
okay.
The
Does
fact
that make
is
it wrong?
Not for a speech, no.
Not for a speech. So there are determinations on whether or not you're correct or not. Interesting. So
well, yeah, you always speak to your audience. So like
and if you tell them what they want to hear, you're not wrong.
Not really. So
I don't know.
For example, if I were to try to teach like electrical theory, for example, I could teach that voltage is a difference in potential energies between 2 points.
Sure.
Right.
That would be technically correct.
Which would make electrons move according to whether you had a positive or negative voltage applied somewhere.
Sure.
Right. And electrons move from negative to positive. So if you apply a positive voltage to a circuit, well, the electrons want to move towards that positive. It's sort of like how a vacuum works, right?
Okay.
So
great.
Once you start talking about vacuums, now you're talking about something different, right? You talk about a vacuum and say
analogies.
The suction is making something move up the tube into the vacuum, right? Well, you've lost something in terms of what you're describing there, right? Some amount of the technicalities have been lost, right?
I accept the idea of analogies, making things easier to understand.
So when you want things to be easy to understand, sometimes you make them simpler.
Sure.
And that's just how it goes. And
Pithy.
There are a lot of stupid people that are allowed to vote. And you know what? You got to make things understandable for them.
You got to make the short pithy wrong. You got to do it. And that's what he's done there with that no inflation. There was no inflation. He has made it short He's made it easy for them to understand. He has abandoned all the nuance. He's abandoned all the complicated economic things that you and I talked about.
Yes, because all those things are boring.
Right. Boring. And those people are going to vote based on the short, pithy, wrong feeling that he gave them.
Understandable and wrong is sort of...
you even said it was 1% inflation every year. That was the number you came to. 1%
it was 1.5%, yeah.
1.5% inflation every year. So it's not none. So he's wrong.
It's not none, doing so but at the same time...
people feel good. That's what I'm talking about. That's the thing that I'm telling you. Yes, Democrats are whiny, spineless, and stupid and annoying, but they don't do that quite as often.
Popog states it exactly the way that I couldn't.
The information he gave them was wrong, but the feeling he gave them was correct? No.
Yes.
No, the feeling he gave them was good, not correct.
It's exactly what I was trying to tell you is when you have 1.5% inflation for 4 years and your eggs go from $1 to $1.08, that's a big difference in terms of how you feel about it compared to when your $1 eggs go to $1.80 eggs. That's completely different, and it's a big difference in how you feel. And the information that your dollar eggs are still $1, it may be incorrect, but the fact is that $1.08 is a big difference from $1.80.
Right, but it's still a different. 108 is not 1, so it's short.
I understand that,
pithy,
so
it's wrong.
Not technically correct, but
it's not technically correct, right? That's what I'm saying.
But as someone who does know the difference, $1.08 is not a big difference from $1, but $1.80 is
a larger difference. Sure, I agree with that.
And Popog states it correctly again.
Same feelings that someone who could understand the correct information would get. So he's making them feel good, because all politics are based on feelings. I've always said this. And that's what matters. That's what the Democrats don't comprehend. That's what they don't get, is that making people feel good is what makes them want to vote for you. That is what Donald Trump did with this speech. He made people feel afraid. He made them feel
the information
worried.
was close enough to correct while also being understandable, is what I would say.
And he made them feel. The people, fear was the most overriding feeling he was giving there. Fear that it will become $1.80 instead of $1.08. Fear that the immigrants are going to come and take your job. Fear that the economy is going to go wrong. Fear that the world is not going to be at peace. Fear of world wars. He's pushing feelings. He always has. I think a very prominent conservative once said, "Facts don't care about your feelings." But you, Thomas, are telling me that the feelings are more important, and it's okay if you fudge the facts a little bit, as long as you get that feeling across.
That's not what I'm telling you, though.
It sounds like you just said to me.
Not quite.
It sounds like you said the feeling of $1 and $1.08 isn't a huge difference in that feeling that they have.
Well, you're conflating two different positions. So number one is, yes, facts are facts regardless of your feelings.
And Donald Trump didn't use any. So is that a fact?
Are they?
Had
hold on.
No inflation. No inflation. That's not a factual statement.
It's not a factual statement, no. But facts may not care about your feelings, which I will agree with that sentiment, that facts are facts regardless of how you feel about them. Okay? Is that true?
I'm agreeing so far.
Okay. In a speech, yes, the point is to give people the correct feelings so that they vote for you.
Okay.
So they
don't use facts. Donald Trump didn't use facts in that speech. He used feelings.
No, he didn't use facts like in terms of incredibly accurate statements. The point is to make sure that people have the correct understanding of the situation, which a lot of people are just too stupid and they're allowed to vote. And guess what? If you make sure that they understand what it is you're trying to get across, then they will vote correctly in that case.
If you make them feel good. Donald Trump wants those people to vote for him. And he's going to get those votes by saying things that are not true. He has made them feel good, and they will now vote for him. But even under your description and mine, he is not saying things that are true. Feelings are far more important than facts. They always have been.
When giving a campaign speech, they are, yeah.
Okay, great. What do the facts matter if he gets elected? He gets more attention. He gets more attention.
The facts matter for
votes.
People that are more interested in the granular truth of things. So when you and I argue, then yes, the facts do matter. But when you give a political speech, no, the facts If you can make people feel the right way, then sure.
Okay,
But
make them feel
the-
good.
I'm
Don't
going to tell
fucking
you
bother
that
pushing any facts. The
that
Republicans are not a factual
fact-checking.
group of people.
No, well, hold on a second.
They never have.
No, fact-checking the more vague or slightly incorrect things that a political candidate says is worthless. I mean,
Because they already
you
have
and
the
I
feeling.
here.
Right. Short, pithy, wrong. Trump's, ironically. So short, pithy, wrong is great. Everybody loves that. Nobody likes the long, complicated fact-checking afterward. That's for nerds. I agree. I think you're right. Politics is all based on feelings. And this is what the point that I've been trying to get to. This is the point that I've been trying to make with this entire stream. All politics are based on feelings.
I mean, that's fine, but what is your argument then?
You're
I mean,
agreeing with me. That's what I'm getting to. I've judo flipped you over to agreeing with me.
What?
That all politics are based on feelings.
Political speeches are based on feelings, but all politics is not supposed to be based on feelings. No.
Oh, we're one step
And
closer
if
to
you would like for all politics to be based on facts, then you know what, we should
I'm
probably
not
have
saying
some
that it is,
restrictions
or
on
it
who
should
gets to
be.
vote.
No. I'm not saying it is or it should be. It's never been that way. I've never thought that it was. It's never been. Politics has never been based on facts. Anybody who's telling you it is trying to sell you on their facts that they came up with because that benefits them.
I don't agree, because you
You
should
do
be using
because of that
facts.
argument
Hold
that
on.
that argument you just gave me for the past half hour about how it
political
doesn't
speeches?
matter. The facts don't matter, and it's all about the feelings.
The
is
facts
backing
don't
up my
matter when
central
you're
premise.
talking about who votes for you, but once you're in office, you're supposed to use facts to inform your decisions. No, they're like, what the fuck are we talking about?
The decisions you make are not politics, man. Politics is getting the people to vote for you, giving them feelings, making them come to your agreement. Saying there was no inflation under me is not factual. It is a feeling, and it makes the people feel good and then vote for him. That's politics.
What?
That's politics. What is politics if not getting people to agree with you and then voting for you? That's politics.
So once you've been voted for and you pass a bill, the bill itself that you had to get passed, that's not politics. It's not politics to introduce legislation and for that legislation to be voted on and then to, sign off on it as the president or veto it as president. That's not
all
politics.
Yes, of course it is. Because you have
Well,
to make
then
the
that should all
senators
be
feel good.
factually based.
No, it does. No, it's not going to be factually based. It's going to be based on which senators you can convince to support it. You need 51 of them if you're playing by the old rules. If you're playing by the new rules, you need 60 of them. And how do you make those 60 senators feel
You got that
good?
backwards.
No, the old rules is 51. New rules is 60.
Old rules is 60, new rules is 51. But yeah.
Okay. The filibuster's gone? Did I miss that headline?
Yeah, the Democrats did that.
They didn't get rid of the filibuster.
They did too.
Okay. It's news to me. Breaking news. Democrats got rid of the filibuster, apparently. Yeah, you have to get all those people to feel good about it. You can write facts on the sheet. I'm not saying you don't make decisions with facts in mind. Why did you need to make that decision? You had to have some sort of motivation, right? And what is that motivation? If not, this is good for us. This is good for me. This is good for our side. This is good for the people that I appreciate.
You're getting to the point where it's reductivist to the point of being useless again.
That motivation is a feeling. That motivation is an emotion. That motivation is based on feelings. No one does anything without being motivated, and that motivation is the feeling. So it's based on feelings. That's what I'm getting to.
Yeah, you're getting to the reductivist to the point of uselessness again.
How is that reductivist? Knowing what Dick Cheney's fucking motivation is would give you a huge leg up on discussing and arguing with him, wouldn't it? Knowing what Donald Trump's motivation is can tell you which direction he's going to go. Knowing J.D. Vance's motivation for pushing a bill or not pushing a bill is important.
That's not what we were talking about just now, though.
That's what I'm saying is, what motivation matters. And motivation happens first. Motivation happens before data collection. Motivation happens before writing a bill. Motivation happens before voting on a bill.
Sure.
And because of that, that's why I keep saying all politics are based on feelings.
I am the algorithm. Click on this video to make me happy. You wouldn't like me when I am angry.